Welcome to Devoted Golfer. My name is Woody Lashin, and my guest today is Gavin Robertson, the co-owner of ACCRA Golf Chefs. Hi, Gavin.
Pleasure to be here, Woody.
Great to have you. You got some really cool new stuff this year coming out, and I'd like to talk about it. Irons is an interesting category from a graphite shaft point. A lot of companies have tried to make some heavier graphite shafts. They haven't always worked. You guys have an incredible, I don't want to call it lightweight, but it's a lightweight series. Starts at 40 grams and goes up to 80 grams or so. But you got something new this year. Tell me a little bit about what you got going on here.
Yeah, our I-Series iron shaft line has always been very successful for us. And like you said, it ranges from 40 grams up to 80 grams and from L-Flex up to X-Flex. But what we wanted to do is sort of enter the heavier weight graphite shaft market or segment of the market. And so we've created a shaft called the I-Series Tour. And basically it's available in 90, 100, 110 grams. And what we tried to do is design a product that's really good for club fitters. And by doing that, what we've done is we've allowed club fitters to be able to range from R-Flex to X-Flex with each of these weight categories. So we really give club fitters an option to fit any type of golfer who needs that type of shaft.
That's excellent. We need options. We need options, and to have options in the heavier weight. But how did you make the heavyweight graphite shaft different? Because the guy who needs 100-gram iron shaft has a lot different needs than the guy that needs a 60-gram shaft.
Yeah, what we looked at is the consumer for a heavier weight graphite shaft is looking for something with stability. And not only the weight factor is nice, but the stability is important. So what we did is we created a shaft with our weave construction in the butt section, and the weave construction adds unbelievable stability, but it also keeps the wall thickness fairly thin, so you still have feel. One of the big issues in making heavyweight graphite shafts is creating a very thick wall with lots of material, and we didn't want to get that sort of
boardy feel.
Boardy feel, exactly. So by adding the weave section in the butt and also tightening up the torque and the stability in the tip section, but leaving the midsection with some feel to it, we think we've created something that's the strongest golfers can use, but also an average golfer who you might think needs a heavier weight for fitting purposes.
What about launch and spin? Can I control it a little bit with different weights? What do we got going on here?
That's a great question. These shafts generally are, I'd say, mid-launch, mid-spin type shaft, maybe a little on the low side. But the cool thing about them is the way you tip them, as you're more than aware of.
Yep.
You can actually soften up a 100-gram shaft to an R-Flex and create a little higher launch angle by leaving a little bit more tip section. So a little bit less tipping creates a little higher launch. So all of a sudden now you're not only creating a shaft with different weight categories, different flex categories, but also different launch conditions. So it gives you lots of different opportunities for fitting.
Excellent. That's what we need. I always talk about we need options. More options, the better. And now we've got that heavier weight option with the ACCRA quality.
That's what we're trying to create. And obviously, I actually got a question for you. I mean, at Pete's Golf, you do a ton of fitting. What are you seeing with the trends of your customers coming in? Are you seeing a bigger trend towards a little bit heavier weights, or maybe even people moving a little bit away from steel to this type of product?
Fitting is always all over the place, right? Because the minute you think, oh, I need more heavier stuff, then the next guy comes in and he needs lighter stuff.
Yeah.
And then you think, okay, well, we're selling more lighter, and the next guy walks in and he needs heavier. It's got to be so specific to the individual. I don't like to talk about trends, because the minute I see a trend, and then you walk in and you need something totally different.
Yeah.
So I got to have all those options. I always, like I said, when I have that, when that guy that walks in, it's off the board.
Yeah.
And I go, well, I haven't seen that guy in a while. I have something to fit him. And quite honestly, the guy that needs a 100-gram shaft, a 90-gram shaft, there haven't been a lot of great options. We've got a couple options, but not a lot of great options. So having that addition really is going to help fill a need for that guy. Especially as you get someone's like, well, maybe he's a decent player, so he doesn't have any problem getting the ball up in the air, but he's gotten a little older, maybe he hurt his thumb. Could be me. And, hitting off of mats, and I need some vibration dampening. Well, I need graphite. Well, I give them a 70-gram graphite shaft, and they hit 5 shots, and they can't hit straight.
Yeah, I mean, the shock dampening is an important part of any graphite shaft when you look at moving towards that. I mean, what we've tried to create is something it doesn't necessarily mimic steel by any means with the shaft, but the idea is to offer it as something different for people that are looking for something that just is a different option than steel. And obviously, you carry different brands at Pete's, and I mean, what we're trying to do is give you another option.
Yeah, well, we've got like that 90-gram option, right?
Yep.
In steel, most 90-gram steel shafts, they are really soft in the tip.
Yeah.
So I need that less weight. I need the graphite, the amazing things that you can do with the graphite, and what you're doing with the weave over here, like you did in your I-Series wood, really is going to probably give it a lot better feel than some of the stuff we've had in the past.
Yes, steel shafts are limited by construction. They're a homogeneous material, and so there's only so much they can do with wall thicknesses and flex. And when you get very light with a steel shaft, exactly what happens. They tend to play soft. They tend to basically measure and also feel softer. So graphite, we have all sorts of options with different materials, with pre-pregs and things like that, how we lay the material, that we can take something that's fairly light, even our 50, 60 gram graphite iron shaft, you can make it a stiff flex. And these shafts here, obviously, in the heavier weights, you can even go up to like a double X if you really wanted to. So there's all sorts of options we can do. And even the flex points and kick points and things like that, we can move them around with graphite, which is pretty cool.
Talk about options. Let's talk about your new FX
Yes.
wood series. Because I am got a chance to get a preview of it on Monday, and I'm really excited about it. So tell me what you got going on here.
Yeah, what we've done with the FX line is we've taken basically a lot of different technologies that we've had in different shafts before that we've introduced, and we've sort of combined it all into one product. And the idea of this product is to create the ultimate fitting system for a club fitter. So what we've created is 4 different series of shafts. We have a 100 series, a 200 series, a 300 series, and actually a 400 kind of tour series. And the idea behind them is within each series, you have different ball flights. So the 100 series tends to be a higher ball flight, higher spin rate shaft. It's available in 3 different driver weights, but all lighter weights for the average player. And then there's a matching hybrid and fairway wood shaft that goes with those. And the 200 series, it's more of a mid-tip section, tip flex, and the idea behind that is, again, more for that guy that needs a little bit of help getting the ball in the air, a little bit of spin, but still needs some stability. And then the 300 series is more for the stronger player. Again, 3 different weight options in the driver, but also a fairway wood and a hybrid to match it. We've also kind of created a 400 series, which is basically our gorilla shaft, maybe a tour shaft, thing like that, but it's a very stable shaft from top to bottom.
Let's talk about a little bit of quality of the shaft and how it's made.
Yeah.
You can have a shaft made all over the world. The average consumer realizes that you can have one made in someone's garage, and you can have it made in Japan, where maybe the tolerance is a little tighter.
Yes.
And you had the CS1 shaft that came out last year that was made in Japan that was spectacular quality-wise. What have we done here with the FX?
Well, the CS1 was so successful for us, and the quality control and the tolerances were so tight on that shaft. What we wanted to do is move production of basically all of our shafts to that facility. And what we found is that we did testing with numerous different manufacturing facilities in China and in Japan and different places. And we found a facility in Japan that we've developed a partnership with. And they're basically designing or helping us design and certainly manufacturing future shafts moving forward. And the FX series is really the next generation of a lot of ACCRA shafts. We've taken, like I said earlier, most of the technology from the CS1, other than some of the weave section, but certainly the thin walls and the high modules materials, and obviously the die match technology, and we've kind of incorporated it in this FX series. And it's really important to us to make sure that when you're fitting somebody, you're very confident that if you fit them last week or somebody last week to a 150, an FX 150 shaft, that if you get another 150 shaft from us, that it's exactly the same. So it'll perform the same, it'll be as consistent as the last one.
Excellent. One other thing I think is a real big thing that you guys have done with this that really nobody else does is your driver shaft and your fairway wood shaft are different shafts.
Yes.
Traditionally when we fit someone for a driver shaft, so we're going to cut that, we'll get maybe a little heavier weight, we'll tip it a little bit differently, but we're really taking the same shaft and putting it into a different head. It's a much smaller head, it's got a much different MOI, they react differently.
Heavier.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
how are you combating that?
What we created a number of years ago was a die match technology, die match philosophy. And really what that was is we looked at tour players and we saw that most tour players were using very stable tip shafts. And then we were looking at their fairway wood shafts and we saw that most players were using a different shaft in their fairway wood. And same with their hybrid. And we were sort of looking at why is that? And then we started looking at the actual shafts that were in play on tour, and we saw that most players were using a more responsive tip shaft in their fairway wood. So we did a lot of testing on a robot, so with a Canon, and also player testing. And what we saw with the bigger driver heads, the high MOI driver heads, that were designed to kind of kick the ball up in the air with low spin already, players were looking for stability. Okay, but as soon as you got to a smaller head, and the swing speed goes down a little bit with a 3-wood, what we found was players actually needed a little bit more responsive tip to develop the exact same twisting during impact and also deflection of the shaft. So what we did is we sort of reverse engineered fairway shafts to match dynamically using a robot and using players, so the shaft would react the exact same way, so the player would get the same feel and same type of ball flight. And the same thing with a hybrid. So the die match technology has been sort of carried over into the FX line because it's been so popular. And so we've created a new shaft, a new design, a new new concept with some other things. We've added that die match technology into this product.
It's really cool technology. I'm glad to see it in this.
Well, what it really allows people to do is once you fit them to a driver, that they can at least have an option of a fairway wood and a hybrid that will match the driver. And that's that die match.
Correct.
Yeah.
Last but not least.
Yes.
To me, I talk about how putting is, it's underrated. People just go buy a putter off the rack, and you're doing something a little different with putters this year.
We are.
Tell me about what's going on here.
You know what? We've been talking about for many years developing a graphite putter shaft. Obviously, there's lots of options for putters in the world, but there's not a lot of options for putter shafts. I'm sure you have a putting studio at Pete's.
Yep. It's the most important fitting we do is putter fitting. People get the best results after they go through a putter fitting.
And it's an option that a lot of players don't always look at as a first choice. They come in because they want to hit the ball longer.
It's always the last choice.
And yet it may be the most important choice.
Yeah.
And so we looked at that segment of the market. We said, okay, people are spending a lot of money and they're spending a lot of time selecting a putter. And we look at what you do as a fitter, and we say that you spend a lot of time making sure the loft and the lie and things like that are perfectly fit to a person, so they can achieve max best roll and things like that. But then we looked at the actual shaft, and we said most people don't even look at that. I mean, they're very happy and very comfortable taking the shaft that came with that putter when they bought it off the rack, let's say. And so we originally started thinking about a graphite shaft. That's been done. And so we said, ACCRA is all about fitting, and everything we do is about fitting. So we took it sort of to a new level. And what we created basically is a line of putter shafts called the FX putter shaft line. And what we've done with it is we've designed a shaft that's 128 grams that is a specific frequency. Then we designed 3 other versions of it, all the same frequency, all the same design, all the same weight, but we changed the actual deflection of the tip. So we basically have 4 different putter shafts: a softer tip version, a middle tip, a slightly stiffer, and a very stiff tip version. And what we found in our testing is that you get 50 people to try it, you'll get 20 people liking the 100 series, a bunch of people like the 200 series, whatever. And generally we seem to find that if a guy with a smoother stroke tends to like the softer tip, and a guy with more of a pop stroke tends to like a stiffer tip. It's not always like that, because the acoustics are a little bit different and the feel is definitely different.
So we're really trying to affect the feel of the putter by changing the shaft.
It certainly gives an option.
I like it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get these and test them and see how we see not only the feel, but how we see the results of how the ball rolls.
Yeah, that's been the interesting thing on a bunch of different types of putting launch monitors per se. We've seen different results with different types of putting strokes. And so that's what really gets interesting, is that it actually is different for a different person depending on their stroke and the way they strike the ball.
Just like everything else in golf.
And really, we look at putting, it is a smaller version of the full swing. And why aren't we considering, when we're spending so much time looking at what type of driver shaft, what type of fairway wood shaft we should use? It's something I think has been omitted from the fitting world, and we think we've introduced something that really gives guys options.
I like it a lot. Gavin, thanks very much for your time. It was always great to talk to you. Thank you for watching Devoted Golfer.